Sonic. This film series, man,
Yeah.
it's become a sensation. It's incredibly successful. This is now the third entry. These movies all managed to do really, really well at the box
Hmm.
office. They seem to be pretty beloved at this point. They've already confirmed that they're working on the fourth one. It's already
Yep.
dated and ready to come out. They're going to
Yep.
continue this franchise, but this third one, certainly was going to introduce, a very, very important character to the Sonic mythos, and that's the character of Shadow, who's being voiced here by Keanu Reeves. He's the new addition to the cast, continuing sort of their trend of introducing well-known Sonic adjacent characters from the franchise with every subsequent film that's come out. But as I said, those other two films that came out, both of them, which we reviewed on the podcast, were really, really successful. They are partly responsible for this era that we're sort of living in which a lot of video game adaptations are doing a lot better than historically they have done. Sonic is a part of that narrative, no doubt about it. I wouldn't call them the greatest movies ever, but they're speaking to their audience, they're serving them well, and I think for the most part, both you and I have relatively enjoyed them. They've been decent,
Yeah.
solid movies. And so with this third one coming out, there's obviously a lot of anticipation, hype, and excitement around this. Of course, what it means for the franchise. Of course, Jim Carrey is coming back after he's made it pretty much known that he's kind of semi-retired from movies. These are like the only movies he's making now. So
Yep.
always great to see him back in this role. But with all of that out the way, man, I will pass it to you. What did you think about Sonic the Hedgehog 3?
Oh man, oh man, was this one of my favorite or one of my most anticipated films of the fall season? Huge Sonic fan, especially when they announced that Shadow was going to be part of this third film. I knew it was time for all the millennials in the room to stand up and get ready to go and see this Sonic movie, man. The Sonic Adventure 2 was just for a lot of young gamers of our age, it just did something different to our brain chemistry. We really like Shadow, we really like Sonic. The music in that game was phenomenal, and we knew that this movie was somewhat embody that game and the introduction of Shadow. And I'm here to say that Sonic 3 was a damn good time, I think. Not a perfect movie by any means, but it was a blast for Sonic fans. There's so many nods and things I think they do right in Sonic mythos that make sense. I mean, you feel for Keanu Shadow was a fun addition to the franchise. I think he fits the character really well for what Shadow's supposed to be and who Keanu is. It kind of works perfectly. It was really interesting while watching. I was like, wait, no, this works really well, because I was worried about it. Actually, the same way I was kind of worried about Idris and Knuckles at first. I was like, I'm like, this is interesting. What is this going to be? But they both just work. It makes sense for what's going on here. Another thing that I like about Sonic 3 is they don't necessarily deal with all the human mumbo jumbo that was going on in the first two films. They're like, no, we're going to focus on these Sonic characters and have fun with them. And in fact, the most human character of this whole thing, of course, is Dr. Robotnik, Jim Carrey, who was going. This is like one of the most Jim Carrey performances I've ever seen, to be honest. Like, he was Jim Carreying it up. He plays two characters. A lot of the times he's talking to himself and acting as himself, and he was going absolutely bananas. To be honest, at certain times, it was a little bit too much. I was like, all right, Jim, we've done this 10 minutes too long. How are we still on this thing? How are we still on the scene? This is crazy. But I do like to see Jim Carrey having a blast and him kind of giving us a lot of those 90s Jim Carrey vibes. It is fun to watch, I think, in this mode. Like you said, especially someone who's beloved as Jim Carrey. It's just kind of nice, I think, to see him in this mode and to see him on the screen at all. It's like, whoa, Jim Carrey's here. And it's like, wow, you're actually putting some feeling into this role, Jim Carrey. Again, I still don't expect it, but he goes all in on these films. And this movie, he was definitely doing that. I think, again, a little bit of issues still linger from those first two movies. Some of the exposition is a little too heavy. Some of the tone is all over the place. But again, if you just think about it as a Sonic film, as the way they enter the smallest things, where it's the Child Garden, whether it's Tails, Sonic, and Knuckles' relationship, whether it's the characters they introduce in the post-credit scene, I think as a Sonic fan, this is a very fun, well worth movie seeing. The third act is kind of crazy. I actually really liked it. It wasn't as convoluted as I thought it was going to be. I had a good time in the theater with this film, man. I'm pretty proud of what they're doing with these Sonic films. And honestly, I can't wait to see what they do with the fourth one. Hopefully, to be honest, I think I might like this one better than the second one. I don't know if the fourth one can do that, to be honest, but I think I'm still excited to see where this franchise can go.
Sonic, this film series, man, it's kind of a marvel in what it's been able to do, and the fact that it's created this new franchise for Paramount. You know, they also have the Knuckles series that's on Paramount Plus, and so people just really can't get enough of these films and of this world. Obviously, due to the fandom and just the large fan base that's been with the character for such a long time. And I've said this before because we've reviewed the other two movies. It's actually crazy. We've reviewed all three movies on this show, but I've always been just an adjacent Sonic fan. I was never huge into Sonic. I did play a few of the games when I was younger, but not as much of my fandom, I could say, um, transferred over as I got older. It was one of those things that,
Hmm.
I played it at a certain age and then I didn't really pick up any of the games after that. But these films have managed, I think, to talk to all audiences, whether you're a newcomer or you're somebody that very much is into the mythos and the characters and the world that Sonic is known for. And that's why these films continue to win. You know, the fans are being serviced in really, really positive ways. And they also managed to get back the entire creative team and the entire cast from the previous two films. Like, they're keeping the whole family together. So you have the same people with the same vision seeing this whole thing through. And what that does is results in another solid film in this franchise with Sonic 3. This is also just, I think, right on par with what we saw with the recent one. And I think definitely even more enjoyable with the first one. And it's really a rarity that you can see a franchise continue to ascend in this way, especially with the fan base, because I just know that fans are really, really enjoying this one even more. And I think that that's just like a positive outlook on what they're doing with the character and just like how much care they're taking care of. And also the fact that they clearly have the intention on making a good movie at a time. Let's just make one good movie. Let's not
Hmm.
overextend ourselves. Let's not get ahead of ourselves and jump the shark and think about the next three movies or do a two-parter. Just the weird, crazy shit that we see from other franchises. They're just focused on one thing at a time. And I think that that
Yeah.
always is why these movies continue to work in the ways that they do. And I enjoyed everything that I saw. It was a good time. I had a lot of fun with it. Jim Carrey, he's one of my most favorite actors that I grew up with, that I love and always enjoy seeing pretty much in anything that he does. And I agree with everything that you said about his presence here and how it's just turned up to the 10th degree. And ultimately, if you're not a fan of Jim Carrey's style of humor, then it's not going to work for you because you're getting that times
Yeah.
11. You're getting that to
Yeah.
every degree possible. But if you do enjoy Jim Carrey, if you are a fan of his physical comedy, his over the top antics, and just his body language and his commitment at the end of the day to what he
Hmm.
does, the guy is unparalleled. Even at this age, it's really crazy to still see him do the wild kooky things that he's done that he does. But I really enjoyed him a lot in this movie, especially
Yeah.
considering it's a dual role, so you get double the Jim Carrey in this movie. By the time we got to the third act, I was pretty blown away with the CGI, the effects. It was really
Yeah.
cool. It all looked good. I
Hmm.
thought that this probably, from a visual standpoint, was maybe the best looking one so far. And
Yeah.
that second one was really impressive, but this one, I think, continued to just kick it up to another level when you introduce Shadow and you juxtapose that against like the visual aesthetic of Sonic or all the other characters. Like, that stuff just really looks cool on screen. And so, yeah, I can tell that this definitely has a lot of steam left in it. By the time the movie was over, the crowd that I saw it with, I mean, I thought I was in a fucking screening of Avengers Endgame. Everybody was going
Yeah.
nuts during the post credit scenes. Like, it was a frenzy in there. And so they obviously still have a lot left in the tank and a lot more to do. And I think a long road ahead of them in terms of just like how successful and how much more they can still do with Sonic, especially considering there's so much backstory and there's so many games that they can pull from and take inspiration from future installments. And so, three movies good. I think, hey, keep going with it. Keep going with it and keep making them until they can't be good anymore. So far, so
Yeah.
good. So they definitely got a great go ahead and a great cosign for me to say, like, yeah, I'll be here for the next one, because they continue to deliver these in a really, really positive way. So we'll see what happens with Sonic the Hedgehog 4 when it comes out. I believe in 2027. It's going to come out pretty soon here in about 2.5 years. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on Sonic the Hedgehog 3. If you've been able to check out this movie, hit us up and let us know what you think about it.